Hi Jens, I'm going to give you some feedback here on your task number 2. Um, I'm going to begin at the global level and then move all the way down to the local level. This is something that I mentioned in my the PowerPoint that I presented you with the first time we met. So you may want to go back and look at the different terms and how they are defined if some of the things that I say don't make sense. But let's begin with sort of my general impression of your language, and that is that generally you write correct and fluent English. There's not a lot of kind of breakdowns in terms of my understanding of your writing, and the language conveys the message that it wants to convey. So that's a really good starting point. In regards to structure, you have an introduction that outlines the text, and that is really, really good. It is a very short introduction, but it does what it's meant to be doing. It gives me an idea of what you're going to be doing and how the things or the different elements in your body text hang together. So points for that, because that's the first one so far I've read, and you're my 10th or 9th, I think, that has had an introduction. So very good. I also like that you then have subheadings sort of leading me through the text, giving me an idea of what's going to come. I will just say one thing about the subheadings, which is that in English, they have to be sort of grammatically correct. For instance, I'm just moving things around on my screen here, that's why I look a bit funny. You write for air power against ISIL, for instance. In English, you typically would say the use of air power against ISIL, so that it becomes a little bit more of a phrase rather than just kind of keywords. Also, you write modern in ISIL context. That's not really what we call idiomatic English. That's to say, it's not what a native speaker would write. It's like kind of rings wrong in a native speaker's ears. It would be Warden's theory in the context of ISIL, right? So just keep that in mind, that in Danish we tend to be able to have those kind of very short, almost keyword-like subheadings. They don't really tend to work that well in English. So just give that a little bit more, just write more basically. Okay, so that's in terms of the introduction and the headings. Going into the structure, there is, because you have decided on how you want to do this, there is coherence in your text, so I can follow how things progress. And that's a really good thing, and one of the things that I was looking for in your text. If we move to paragraph level, they work in general, but there are a couple of places where your organization is cluttered, I would say. The one called Air Power Against ISIL, you've got a lot of information cluttering up things. It's like you wanted to say too much. This is a case where I would go back and revise and see if there's any information that can be lifted out. First of all, just revise it and make it a little bit more precise, less cluttered. Also, I think you have more than one topic sentence. I think you at least have 2. So go back and look at what it is you want to say. There should be 1 topic sentence per paragraph. That's it. And then, of course, elaboration, support, all those things for the topic sentence. And also try and be a little bit more straightforward when you write. Sometimes you get into like sentence constructions that are just a little bit too convoluted. Just write sometimes very straightforward sentences. You can always alternate between some more complicated sentence structures and then something more straightforward. That actually gives the reader a really good reading experience, because that creates variation and it makes you look like a better writer. You know, it gives you credibility just because you can vary your language, and then it tells your reader that you are on top of your communication. You know how to create pleasant communication. So that gives credibility. turning the paper over here. When you get into your paragraph on Warden, you talk about his ring theory. You need to be aware of your reader. Your reader doesn't have has some prior knowledge. You should imagine a reader that has some prior knowledge but wouldn't immediately know what the ring theory is. So go back and look at whether you are defining key terms and theories in enough detail. And also in that paragraph about the ring theory, there are 5 rings. Explain the relationship between them. Explain, I'm now going to talk about the first one, the second one, and then the third one, and then finally. And then consider, should that be in one paragraph, or should you consider dividing it into more than one paragraph? Because it is a lot of information that you get. It might be, you can find a logical place to separate your description of the 5 rings. You may choose to skip one for the purpose of this particular paper. I'm going to talk about this, but not that, and then mention all of them very quickly and say, I'm going to focus on whatever. And then finally coming to the conclusion, you sort of end up, again, I'm going to have to move something around here. Yes, you end up by saying what is missing is the offensive from the friendly ground forces. Now, you then kind of open up a new perspective. Something's missing here that we haven't talked about yet that you see as an issue. And maybe you think it's like outside the scope of this paper, which is fine, because you always have to make those distinctions. What's relevant? What do I add? What do I cut away? What is sort of less salient? Just don't write it if you leave the reader thinking, what's missing? What am I not being told here? So go back and look at that and see if you can just simply delete that sentence. Finally, at the very local level, there are 2 things. One kind of grammatical thing that I think you should be aware of, which is the possessive case, IFL. When you use the apostrophe S. When you talk about Warden paper and Mueller, you obviously talk a lot about Pape's theory, Warden's 5 rings, etc. Is that Warden? I forget. But make sure that there is an apostrophe and an S signifying the possessive case. Okay, so just to reiterate, the structure on the global level is good. You've organized it well, there's coherence. At paragraph level, be a little bit more straightforward. Make sure you have topic sentences. Clear away the clutter. If it's not necessary, erase it. And look at the paragraph called Air Power Against ISIL and revise it. Okay, that's it from me now. I'll see you on Friday. Feel free to email me if there are any issues or questions regarding this video. Well, okay, I'll see you on Friday. Bye.